Greetings, adventurers! Get ready to embark on an extraordinary quest into the captivating realm of The Legend of Zelda. From the iconic landscapes of Hyrule to the exhilarating battles against formidable foes, this beloved gaming saga has enthralled players across generations, earning its place as a true legend. Join me on an unforgettable journey as we unravel the rich tapestry of secrets, heroism, and fantastical wonders that define the Legend of Zelda series. We'll dive deep into the depths of ancient dungeons, wield mythical weapons, and unlock the power of courage as we explore the timeless legacy of this gaming masterpiece. So ready your sword, sharpen your wit, and prepare for an adventure like no other. Together we shall embark on a quest that will ignite your imagination and capture your heart. In the classic Nintendo Entertainment System game, The Legend of Zelda, players embark on an epic quest as the valiant hero Link. Of course, you can name him whatever you want, that's just the name in the manual. Set in the enchanting land of Hyrule, the game introduces us to Princess Zelda, who has been captured by the malevolent Ganon, and hidden away in a labyrinth dungeon. As Link, our courageous protagonist, armed with his trusty sword and shield, the player ventures forth to rescue Princess Zelda and restore peace to the kingdom. The game unfolds as an open-world adventure, with players exploring a vast and diverse landscape, braving treacherous dungeons, and interacting with a colorful cast of characters. Throughout his journey, Link encounters mythical creatures, battles fearsome enemies, and solves intricate puzzles to obtain the powerful Triforce fragments, the ultimate symbol of power and wisdom. Interestingly, the English instruction booklet for Zelda doesn't even mention the third Triforce, later referred to as the Triforce of Courage. By collecting these fragments, Link aims to defeat the mighty Ganon and rescue Princess Zelda. With its non-linear gameplay and sense of exploration, The Legend of Zelda captivated players with its innovative mechanics and enthralling storyline. The game's top-down perspective, challenging combat, and clever dungeon design set the stage for a new era of adventure games, leaving an indelible mark on the gaming industry. Zelda for the NES remains a beloved classic, capturing the hearts of players with its immersive world, memorable music, and timeless gameplay. Well, nearly timeless. It laid the foundation for one of gaming's most enduring franchises, ensuring that The Legend of Link and Zelda would continue to captivate audiences for decades to come. I imagine if I played this when it first came out, I would have been blown away by it. But since it came out well before I was born, I didn't end up playing it till like 17 years later when the collector's edition came to the GameCube. I did still think it had some cool ideas, but compared to everything else that I had played before that point in time, it was extremely underwhelming. I mean, basically everything on the NES is underwhelming compared to what came after it. It was great at the time, but now it's very dated. Even the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis have this problem to an extent nowadays. As someone who mainly grew up with 3D games, I find a lot of old 2D games just don't hold my attention anymore. Even a lot of modern ones. That's not to say I exclusively like 3D games. The original Sonic trilogy are still some of my favorite games ever. It's just a lot harder to go back to games like those when you compare them to these vast 3D environments we have now. All that being said, I feel like The Legend of Zelda is objectively a good game, with the exception of some of its more esoteric secrets. It was cool that the game had secrets, and I don't know, maybe some of the more cryptic ones were mentioned in the manual, but judging the game as a standalone experience, I think it was far too difficult. Having to blow up every random wall you see just to get to the end of the game was a little ridiculous. I guess maybe the idea was that you were supposed to learn from your friends at the schoolyard by talking about it, kind of like the whole Mew thing in the Pokemon games. But again, as a standalone experience, that just doesn't really work. Now that I've called Zelda 1 too difficult, I don't even know what I can say about The Adventure of Link. In The Adventure of Link, the direct sequel to the original Legend of Zelda, players once again assume the role of the courageous hero Link on a quest to save the land of Hyrule. The game takes place after the events of its predecessor as Link embarks on a perilous journey to awaken Princess Zelda from an eternal slumber and thwart the resurrection of the ancient villain Ganon. Now, as far as I can tell, this Zelda is a different Zelda than the one from the first game, even though this takes place just, I think, a short while after the first game? So I don't know what happened to that Zelda and why we're awakening a new one that I guess has been in slumber for like hundreds of years or something, but I don't think the story's that important with these early games. How did she get put to sleep? According to the manual, it was the king's magician who put her to sleep because she wouldn't tell Zelda's brother where the hidden Triforce of Courage was. Why did the magician side with the son of the king over the daughter? Who knows? Unlike its predecessor, The Adventure of Link features side-scrolling action gameplay, adding a new layer of challenge. As players traverse the vast kingdom of Hyrule, they face formidable enemies and engage in intense combat using a combination of swordplay, magic spells, and various items. To awaken Princess Zelda, Link must gather the scattered fragments of the Triforce of Courage, which are hidden in treacherous temples guarded by powerful bosses. Throughout his quest, Link also acquires experience points and levels up, enhancing his combat abilities and unlocking new skills. Unique to the Adventure of Link is the incorporation of a spellcasting system, where Link can learn and utilize magical spells ranging from offensive attacks to defensive buffs, further diversifying the gameplay and strategy. Zelda 1 is a good game that's too difficult. Zelda 2 is a bad game that's too difficult. It was promising, and like the first game, it had some cool ideas. I like that they had the goal to completely change its gameplay style from the first game after Zelda 1 was so well received, but the difficulty just made it way too frustrating. A Link to the Past is where things started getting interesting. In The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, players are transported to the magical kingdom of Hyrule, where they once again assume the role of a courageous young hero named Link. A Link to the Past takes the Zelda series to new heights, capturing the essence of exploration, puzzle solving, and epic storytelling. Set in a captivating dual-world environment, A Link to the Past introduces players to the concept of a light and dark realm. As Link, the player embarks on a quest to rescue Princess Zelda, who this time has been captured by the malevolent wizard Aghanim? To accomplish this, Link must gather the 3 sacred pendants of virtue, unlock the legendary Master Sword, and uncover the secrets that lie within the parallel realms. Throughout the game, players traverse a vast and diverse land filled with lush forests, treacherous dungeons, and charming villages. As Link progresses, he gains new tools, weapons, and magical abilities, allowing him to overcome challenging puzzles and defeat powerful enemies. With its top-down perspective, stunning visuals, and a rich, immersive soundtrack, A Link to the Past solidified itself as one of the greatest entries in the Legend of Zelda series. Its influence can still be felt today, as it set the standard for what a Zelda game should be, capturing the hearts of gamers and inspiring future titles in the franchise. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is an enchanting adventure that immerses players in a beautifully crafted world filled with captivating quests, memorable characters, and challenging gameplay. It remains a timeless classic beloved by fans for its rich storytelling and masterful execution, ensuring its place as an unforgettable chapter in the Zelda legacy. I am not one of those fans. I think it's a good game, I had some fun playing it, but I've never been able to bring myself to finish it. I think I got maybe halfway and got bored. I feel like I probably shouldn't have played Ocarina of Time before playing Link to the Past. It feels like you're playing a demake of Ocarina of Time when you compare the two. If I had nothing else to play, I'm sure I would have finished it and would have loved it, but there are just so many better games out now that didn't exist when this game came out. Ultimately, I think I'd rather check off some of the other games on my backlog first. I just can't bring myself to finish this one. At least not yet anyways. Maybe someday. Hopefully someday. A Link to the Past deserves a lot of credit for introducing a ton of series staples, Kakariko Village, Parallel Worlds, the Master Sword, just to name a few. That's about it for the 2D Zeldas for me. I haven't played more than a few hours of any of the Game Boy ones. I played a little bit of Link's Awakening and a little bit of Minish Cap, but I've never finished them. And that's mainly because of games like Ocarina of Time. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, perhaps the most iconic entry in the Zelda series, invites players into a timeless and immersive adventure. Released for the Nintendo 64, this game revolutionized the gaming landscape with its groundbreaking 3D graphics, innovative gameplay, and captivating storyline. In Ocarina of Time, players embark on a grand quest as a young hero named Link. The game begins in the peaceful land of Hyrule, where Link discovers his destiny as the hero of time. With guidance from the wise Princess Zelda and the enigmatic Sheik, Link must thwart the evil plans of Ganondorf, the King of Thieves who seeks to obtain the Triforce and conquer the world. The King of Thieves? I guess because he wants to steal the Triforce? What thieves is he king of? Has he stolen anything else? Like, besides the hearts of countless women? As players traverse the vast land of Hyrule, they encounter diverse races such as the Gorons, which would be in basically every Zelda game after that, solve intricate puzzles, and engage in thrilling combat. Ocarina of Time introduces the concept of time travel, allowing players to seamlessly shift between Link's childhood and adult forms, further deepening the gameplay and narrative. The game is known for its challenging dungeons, each housing unique themes, puzzles, and powerful boss battles. From exploring the depths of the inside of Jabu Jabu's belly to braving the fiery depths of the Fire Temple, every location is meticulously designed to offer a sense of wonder and discovery. A defining aspect of the Ocarina of Time is its enchanting musical component. Link wields the Ocarina of Time, an instrument that plays a crucial role in unlocking secrets, manipulating time, and even communicating with characters throughout the game world. The melodies of the ocarina are woven into the fabric of the game, adding emotional depth and enhancing the overall experience. The game's impact on the gaming industry cannot be overstated. It set new standards for 3D action-adventure games, influencing countless titles that followed. Ocarina of Time represents a milestone in gaming history, showcasing the power of storytelling, immersive gameplay, and the enduring legacy of the Legend of Zelda series. So, like a lot of people, Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda game. I held off on playing it for a long time because I was a dumb little kid and didn't know any better. But since this was before everyone started using the internet, all I knew is that it was about some little fairy kid that looked like Peter Pan. And I wasn't into that. I would much rather be rolling around at the speed of sound as a cool anthropomorphic hedgehog, wouldn't you? Eventually, after being recommended it like a billion times by a friend of mine, and after the collector's edition on the GameCube came out, I was finally able to give it a go, and man am I glad I did. Not only was this a great port of an already fantastic game, it introduced me to so many cool new things in gaming that I had never experienced before. One of the first things I thought about when booting the game up was, why the heck can't I jump? I think this was the first action game I ever played that didn't have a jump button. But once I realized the game wasn't about platforming like most of the other games I'd played up until then, I was like, whoa, this game has puzzles. I didn't know games could have puzzles in them. This game has dungeons. I didn't know games could have dungeons in them. The closest thing I'd seen to a dungeon up until then was like the caves in Pokemon Red and Blue, and I hated those. That same friend of mine who convinced me to give the Zelda series a try came over to my house for a sleepover one time when I was like, I don't know, 8 or something. I remember we were playing Zelda till like 2 or 3 in the morning. He took control for a bit while we were in the water temple, just swimming around in circles over and over, just zoning out about it because we were so tired. And we didn't know where to go. Looking back, it's funny how silly moments like that just really stick with you. This game is so good, and a million people have made gigantic video essays on why it's so good, so I'm not going to bother saying anything about it other than it's crazy that somehow both Mario and Zelda managed to perfectly adapt themselves into 3D, just nailing it on the first try. Truly amazing, and as a big Sonic fan, mildly aggravating. After experiencing Ocarina of Time, I had to move on to the sequel, Majora's Mask. How they did this in 1 year, I don't understand. And why have they not been able to be anywhere near this efficient since then? It's so crazy. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, which came out just a year after Ocarina of Time, was a unique and atmospheric installment in the Zelda series that presented players with a haunting and emotional adventure. Released as a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, this game takes a bold departure from the traditional Zelda formula. In Majora's Mask, players assume the role of Link, who finds himself in the mysterious and foreboding land of Termina. Here he discovers that the moon is plummeting towards the world, and he only has 3 days to prevent its cataclysmic collision. And it has a face for some reason. They never explain this, the moon just has a face now. The game's main antagonist, the Skull Kid, who was just this random background character in the first game, wields a powerful artifact known as Majora's Mask, which grants him immense power and drives him to wreak havoc upon the land. To save Termina, Link must navigate through a series of intricate dungeons and unravel the stories of its diverse inhabitants. The game's unique time mechanic adds a sense of urgency and depth, as Link can manipulate time, relive moments, and interact with characters at different points in their daily lives. This allows for intricate questlines and emotional narratives to unfold. Majora's Mask delves into the themes of sorrow, loss, and personal growth, exploring the inner struggles of characters facing their own impending doom. The game's dark and melancholic atmosphere, complemented by its haunting soundtrack, creates a distinct and immersive experience. A notable feature of Majora's Mask is the transformation masks, which allow Link to assume different forms with unique abilities. Whether it's becoming a Deku Scrub, a Goron, or a Zora, these transformations are essential for solving puzzles, accessing new areas, and connecting with the inhabitants of Termina. Majora's Mask stands out for its bold artistic direction, deep character development, and its exploration of complex themes. It captivated players with its thought-provoking storytelling and pushed the boundaries of what a Zelda game could be. While initially met with mixed reactions due to its departure from the traditional Zelda formula, Majora's Mask has gained immense praise and a dedicated following over the years. It is now recognized as a standout entry in the series, showcasing the ability of video games to explore mature themes and emotions. Plenty of people have said this, but I'm just going to repeat it, because it's so crazy to me. Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask? 1 year. Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom? 6 years. How does that happen? Tears of the Kingdom is great from what I've played of it so far, but I don't think there's anywhere near the difference in quality between it and Breath of the Wild to justify taking over 6 times the amount of years in development that Majora's Mask took compared to Ocarina of Time. At the time, I was kinda turned off by Majora's Mask. A time restraint with a 3-day cycle? That's intimidating for a kid. Especially because you lose all your stuff at the end of the 3-day cycle. Well, not all your stuff, but most of it. Who wants to play a game where you're gonna lose all your stuff all the time? That's like playing a game where your stuff breaks all the time. I can see Breath of the Wild being really intimidating to little kids, just like Majora's Mask was to me back in the day. If you know any kids who have played Breath of the Wild, let me know what they think of it, I'm curious. Normally I would just take my time playing games back then, just running around levels mindlessly. It was absolutely daring for Nintendo to impose time restraints on the player like this in Majora's Mask, because at least for me, as a kid, time restraints in video games were totally unappealing. When I played Katamari Damacy, I would just go straight for that endless mode. Majora's Mask has this almost like Halloween-y atmosphere. It's like this fun, mystical, eerie, spooky vibe you can only get from certain things. It's obviously not a Halloween-themed game, but, you know, it's got that Halloween-y feeling. But eventually, yeah, this one clicked too. Between the cool power-ups you get when putting on the different masks, the interesting stories going on with all the NPCs, all of Link's cool new abilities, this is just another fantastic game that I eventually ended up liking more than Ocarina of Time. As a kid, I remember just thinking, more is obviously better. Ocarina of Time has way more dungeons, so it's the better game, right? But after playing more and more Zelda games, I've realized dungeons aren't my favorite part of Zelda. I like the exploration in the overworld, and Majora's Mask is mainly about that. There are only 4 dungeons, and honestly I prefer that to all of the dungeons that are in Ocarina of Time. When I first played through Majora's Mask, my mom had an apple-scented air freshener in the house right outside my bedroom. So now anytime I smell that particular scent of apple, I'm immediately reminded of Majora's Mask. Remember that part in Majora's Mask where you go to the Deku Palace and you stick the Deku Princess in a bottle? What was up with that? Is she some kind of Pokemon? Does she have the inherent ability to be able to shrink inside of capsules? I feel like there hasn't been enough weird stuff like that later in the series, especially in Breath of the Wild. You know, you never carry a fish go around on your head or dance with a weird gray guy on a hilltop. I'm only a few hours into Tears of the Kingdom, but I hope I start running into some weird stuff like that in that game. So having played and really enjoyed Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, it was, of course, time to move on to Wind Waker. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is an enchanting and vibrant entry in the Zelda series that takes players on a captivating seafaring adventure. Released for the GameCube, this game stands out with its cel-shaded art style and introduces a vast open world set in a sprawling ocean. In The Wind Waker, players embody Link as he sets out on a quest to rescue his sister and unravel the mysteries of the Great Sea. Guided by the enigmatic King of Red Lions, a talking boat, Link explores a vast archipelago of islands, encounters diverse characters, and battles against the forces of evil led by the malevolent Ganondorf. Sailing plays a central role in the gameplay as Link navigates the vast ocean using his trusty sailboat. Players can chart new courses, discover uncharted islands, and engage in thrilling sea battles against fearsome enemies. The exploration of the Great Sea offers a sense of freedom and discovery, with secrets hidden beneath the waves and puzzles waiting to be solved on remote islands. The Wind Waker is known for its charming characters, whimsical humor, and captivating storyline that explores themes of courage, friendship, and the consequences of human ambition. Link's quest takes him through vast dungeons, each with unique challenges and memorable boss battles, while also discovering new abilities and powerful items along the way. The game's distinctive cel-shaded graphics bring the vibrant world of The Wind Waker to life, immersing players in a beautifully animated and expressive environment. Combined with a memorable music score, this game invokes a sense of childlike wonder and adventure. While initially met with some controversy due to the departure from the realistic visuals of its predecessor, the game has since gained a dedicated fanbase and is celebrated as a standout entry in the Zelda series. As a kid, I was one of those people who was initially taken back by the cutesy art style. It just didn't quite draw me in as much as the other two 3D Zeldas. I enjoyed it, but I think I just got more invested in other GameCube and PS2 games around that time period, and I could never bring myself alone to come back and finish it. That is until that same friend from earlier brought his copy of the game over and basically just said, "We're playing through this game. It has a co-op mode, kinda. We can use the Tingle Tuner, it'll be great." So we did. If you don't know who Tingle is, he's this weird little guy who was introduced in Majora's Mask and then brought back in a bunch of preceding games for some reason. In this one, you meet up with him and he allows you to connect your Game Boy Advance to the GameCube and do stuff on the second screen while you're playing the game. It was like the Wii U way before the Wii U was a thing, and sort of like the Dreamcast VMU. I played a little bit of it. I think we alternated here and there, but I remember him playing more of it as we got closer to the end. I felt like I kept getting lost later in the game. I didn't quite grasp onto the story and explanations of where to go like I had in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. So I don't know if I didn't like this game as much because I was a dumb little kid, or because it's actually harder than Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I'll definitely go back and play it myself one of these days to find out for sure. I've been meaning to play the HD version since it came out. It's just been sitting on my shelf collecting dust. But yeah, when we got to the late game of Wind Waker, my friend basically took over and beat it for me while I did stuff on the Tingle Tuner, which is funny because I normally would never let a friend beat a game for me. I always wanted to have the experience of playing it myself, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of that Tingle Tuner, particularly because I was a troll. You see, the Tingle Tuner lets you spend your friend's rupees and buy whatever you want. And I would buy bombs, and I would constantly be bombing him while he was playing. So I was having a great time just bombing my friend, every 5 seconds. He hated it, but in the back of his mind, I think he also sort of liked that little extra bit of challenge. Maybe, I don't know. And it was funny, you know, seeing Link just constantly being blown up out of nowhere. But anyway, that was my experience with Wind Waker, just blowing up my friend with bombs constantly. So a few years pass, the GameCube's reaching the end of its life cycle, the Wii comes out, and of course, I gotta get the new Zelda game on the Nintendo Wii. So I get Twilight Princess pretty much launch day. It might not have been exactly launch day because Wiis were really hard to find when they first came out for a while, but it was within a month or two, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is an epic and immersive entry in the Zelda series that delves back into a darker and more mature storyline, likely in direct response to the critics of the Wind Waker, and in response to the Space World 2000 Zelda tech demo, which wowed players with its graphics at the time. It's funny how people generally think that the Wind Waker has aged much better than Twilight Princess now, or the Space World 2000 Zelda tech demo because of its art style. Originally released for both the GameCube and Wii consoles, the Twilight Princess presents players with a vast and atmospheric world filled with mystery, danger, and a unique Twilight realm. So you know how there were two versions of this game for both consoles? The Wii version was actually flipped horizontally, like the whole game, because Link had been left-handed up until that point, but the Wii game had these waggle controls, and most people are right-handed, so to make Link right-handed, they just flipped the entire game horizontally. It's a really silly solution to that problem, but I think it's a fun little fact. Players again assume the role of Link, who this time around is a young farmhand who becomes entangled in a quest to rescue the land of Hyrule from being engulfed in darkness. As twilight encroaches upon Hyrule, Link is transformed into a wolf and partners with the mysterious creature Midna. Together they navigate the dual realms of light and twilight, battling enemies, solving puzzles, and uncovering the truth behind the impending catastrophe. The game features a sprawling overworld, dungeons, and memorable characters that enhance the immersive experience. Link embarks on a journey to collect ancient artifacts and awaken the spirits of the light to counter the encroaching darkness. With the help of powerful tools and weapons, including the iconic Master Sword, Link fights formidable bosses and overcomes challenging obstacles. Twilight Princess offers a rich and layered narrative exploring themes of corruption, sacrifice, and the blurred line between light and darkness. The characters contribute to the emotional depth of the story, while the game's art direction and atmospheric soundtrack further enhance its immersive nature. The game introduces new gameplay mechanics, such as the transformation into a wolf, allowing for unique perspectives and puzzle-solving opportunities. Additionally, the use of motion controls on the Wii version of the game adds an extra layer of interactivity to the combat and various actions. Twilight Princess received critical acclaim for its engaging storytelling, immersive world, and refined gameplay. It's often praised for its mature tone and depth of its characters, and has garnered a strong following among fans of the Zelda franchise. I really enjoyed Twilight Princess. I don't think I would enjoy it as much replaying it now because it's a long game, and it has a long, tedious intro. It took me a while to get through it compared to the other Zeldas, and I don't have that kind of time to invest in games anymore generally. But it did have a really grand scale. There were so many things going on in that game. It was like a more fleshed out version of Ocarina of Time, which is really saying something because Ocarina of Time was already a really fleshed out game. But yeah, Twilight Princess was just a really good game. Unfortunately, this is sort of where I started to feel Zelda fatigue, particularly with new tools like the spinner. It's really cool using the spinner in the dungeon where you obtain it, but the fact that it was basically useless outside of that was really disappointing because it was a lot of fun to use in that dungeon. All of the other weapons were basically just the same, hook shot, a bow, and arrow, and it was starting to feel just a little bit stale by the end, even though it did have some fun new minigames and stuff. Did you know I play piano? For the longest time, my go-to songs on the piano were Saria's song from Ocarina of Time and Plum's theme from Twilight Princess. Those may seem kind of random, but I just think they're fun-sounding songs that have particularly simple and easy melodies to play on the piano. Saria's song is just... and Plum's theme is all... Glad I finally got to put that talent to use. Never ask me to play anything on the piano again. So those are my main takeaways from Twilight Princess. Also, there was this weird bird thing. Really creepy. Not sure what was going on with that thing. So more years passed and we get to Skyward Sword. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is a quote-unquote captivating and imaginative entry in the Zelda series that explores the origin of the iconic hero Link. Released for the Wii, this game takes players on a thrilling and visually stunning adventure through the skies and the vast land below. In Skyward Sword, players are introduced to a unique setting known as the floating island of Skyloft. As Link, a young knight in training, players embark on a quest to rescue their childhood friend Zelda and unravel the mysteries surrounding the ancient land of Hyrule. One of the key features of Skyward Sword is the innovative use of motion controls, which allow players to wield Link's sword and shield with precision. Well, kinda. Swordplay is an integral part of the gameplay, with players needing to strategically analyze enemies' movements and perform precise sword strikes to defeat them. The game introduces a rich cast of characters, each with their own quirks and motivations, and players will encounter memorable allies and adversaries along their journey. Like Groose. The The story delves into the deep connection between Link and Zelda, exploring themes of friendship, destiny, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. As players progress, they navigate vast and visually stunning environments, including ancient temples, lush forests, and treacherous dungeons. Each area is filled with intricate puzzles, challenging enemies, and hidden secrets just waiting to be discovered. Skyward Sword's art style blends vibrant colors and impressionistic designs, creating a whimsical and painterly world that immerses players in its unique atmosphere. The orchestrated soundtrack further enhances the game's emotional impact, providing a captivating backdrop to the epic adventure. Skyward Sword received mostly critical acclaim for its engaging stories, inventive gameplay mechanics, and striking visuals. It demonstrated the potential of motion controls in gaming and further expanded the lore and mythology of the Zelda series. Okay, I guess we have to talk about the Zelda timeline a little bit. The Legend of Zelda Hyrule Historia was originally published a month after Skyward Sword came out, and with it came the first official comprehensive Zelda timeline from Nintendo. They made a big deal about how Skyward Sword was the first game in the series, but everything that came after that was clearly this weird mishmash of ideas that they sort of had to haphazardly slap together to make any sense out of this crazy series of events, complete with branching timelines and everything. I do think it's kind of cool that Nintendo did finally sort of try to address the timeline officially, but it is really convoluted. If you want to know more about the Zelda timeline, watch one of the many videos about it on YouTube. Or if you want a quick overview, just pause the screen here and take a look for yourself. Got all that? Okay, cool, let's continue. I was really excited for Skyward Sword when the initial gameplay trailers for the game first came out. I thought it looked fun, the graphics looked really good even though it wasn't in HD, it looked interesting and colorful. It was a nice change of pace after how grimdark Twilight Princess was, but not too childish looking like Wind Waker. It just seemed like a best of both worlds situation, like they were trying to perfect the formula. But in practice, man, I'm sorry, but I did not like Skyward Sword. Like the earliest game in the series, it had some cool ideas going for it, but they were terribly executed. I do think Skyloft was kind of neat, but once you get down to the map below, I thought the environments were bland and boring. You got your desert, you got your forest, you got your... I think there was a third environment? I don't even remember. The maps are big and empty, you have to keep backtracking constantly in that game. There's so much backtracking. I remember the exact moment I put this game down and decided to never pick it up again. There are a few times where I was like, okay, this is getting a little dull, but I'll persevere, I'll beat this game eventually. The moment they said, hey, this forest is filled with water, go find 50 of these things underwater, I was like, nope, no thanks, I'm not doing that. And that's when I put the game down forever, because that doesn't sound fun in the slightest, and I don't know why they included that mission. Again, there were a lot of ideas where I could sort of see what they were going for, but this one was just, I just can't Skyward Sword, no. That leads us to Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a groundbreaking and expansive entry in the Zelda series that redefines the boundaries of open-world exploration and gameplay. Released for the Nintendo Switch and Wii U consoles, this game immerses players in a vast and breathtaking world filled with adventure, discovery, and limitless possibilities. In Breath of the Wild, players take on the role of Link, awakening from a deep slumber to a world devastated by the ancient evil force known as Calamity Ganon. With little guidance, unlike Skyward Sword, players embark on a quest to restore peace to the land of Hyrule and rescue Princess Zelda from her eternal struggle against Ganon's influence. The game offers an unprecedented sense of freedom, allowing players to explore a vast, seamless world that spans rugged mountains, expansive fields, lush forests, and mysterious ruins. The open-ended nature of the game encourages players to chart their own path, uncovering hidden secrets, solving puzzles, and engaging in thrilling combat encounters. Breath of the Wild introduces a variety of innovative gameplay mechanics. Link can climb on almost any surface, glide through the air using a paraglider, and utilize a vast array of weapons, shields, and magical abilities. The dynamic weather system and realistic physics add depth and realism to the game world, creating a sense of immersion and strategic gameplay opportunities. The game emphasizes exploration, probably more than any other game since the first Legend of Zelda, rewarding players for their curiosity and resourcefulness. Shrines scattered throughout the world offer puzzles and challenges that grant abilities and enhancements. Additionally, engaging in side quests, encountering unique characters, and discovering ancient memories adds layers of depth to the narrative in the world of Hyrule. Breath of the Wild's artistic direction combines a painterly aesthetic with a sense of awe-inspiring scale, creating breathtaking vistas and immersive environments. The minimalist yet evocative soundtrack further enhances the sense of adventure and discovery. Critically acclaimed, Breath of the Wild has been praised for its vast open world, innovative gameplay mechanics, and meticulous attention to detail. It represents a bold and successful reinvention of the Zelda series, captivating players with its sense of exploration, freedom, and compelling narrative that unfolds gradually. What can I say about this game that hasn't been said already? Nothing. That's what. Why did I even make this video? It's funny, as unique as everyone says that everyone's playthroughs of Breath of the Wild are, I feel like mine wasn't too different from everyone else's. The only major differences I'd say in the experience I had compared to others is that most people did the Zora Divine Beast first. I think I did the Goron one first. I'm not 100% certain because it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure I did the Goron one first. And then the Terrytown side quest, I got stuck on that one, like immediately. Like the first person you're supposed to find is this Goron whose name ends in Sun, and I just never found him, so I was never able to complete that quest. I'll definitely go back and do it one of these days, but I just haven't yet. Other than that, yeah, pretty straightforward. You know, did the Divine Beasts, got the Master Sword, some random side quests, like the Catalox Island or whatever it's called, Island Quest, and then went on to go kill Ganon. My horse in Breath of the Wild, her name was Debbie.
Perhaps I should name her Grace, or Majesty, or Debbie.
My other friend just recently tried Breath of the Wild for the first time. He caught a horse and named it Bluebutt. Because of its open world nature, Breath of the Wild was a great game for my girlfriend, now wife, and I to play together because she could just pick a spot on the map, be like, go there, and I could go there, which is different from other Zelda games that would block you off from certain sections. It was a lot of fun to play together as a team like that. There aren't as many choices for you to make in other Zelda games. My biggest complaint with Breath of the Wild is how uninteresting some of the rewards are. You've seen basically everything it has to offer as far as equipment goes in such a short amount of time. You got the sword, the spear, bow and arrow, and the greatsword. And like, boomerangs. I think that's about it. No real tools to speak of other than the 4 Sheikah Slate abilities you get near the beginning of the game. You do get divine powers, which are kinda like tools, but they just aren't quite interesting enough. The most useful of them by far is Rivali's Gale, and all that does is send you flying into the air a little bit. Okay, I'm done talking about Breath of the Wild now. Here are some of my hot takes on the series. Oh, you know, they remade Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the 3DS. Those are some of the best remakes I've ever played. It's sad that they haven't been ported to the Switch yet. Yeah, I know you can play them on an emulator or whatever, but I just don't want to bother setting up the plugins or whatever. Maybe you can just change the resolution and the options built into the emulator or something, but I don't got time for that. I feel like I haven't talked enough about the music in this video. The music from Ocarina of Time in particular is just so memorable even today. All the different Ocarina themes, the Song of Storms, even carrying over into Majora's Mask, where you got the Song of Healing, the Song of Wind, the Sky, the Day and Night, the Sun, Sun and Moon, Zelda's Sun and Moon version. All that music is so good. Who do you think the best Zelda girl is? I think it's Malon. She just feels like this loving older sister type, and I really dig that. It's a little more relatable to me than the childhood best friend, the destined princess companion, or the obsessive fish girl. What? You're saying you didn't have an obsessive fish girl swoon over you as a kid? I just want to go to Lon Lon Ranch or Romani Ranch and drink some of that delicious Lon Lon milk. Or as my favorite Let's Player who doesn't make videos anymore, Sir Ron Lionheart would say, Chato Romani. So what's my favorite Zelda game? Breath of the Wild. It might be Tears of the Kingdom, but I haven't played enough of it yet. The reason? Because of everything everyone's already said about it. It's just such a good game, and it really was a breath of fresh air in an industry that's becoming more and more cookie cutter as more and more AAA games come out. There are a bunch of cool locations in almost all of the games. Kakariko Village, the Lost Woods, Kokiri Forest, Lon Lon Ranch, Hyrule Castle, Lake Hylia. That's the one thing about Breath of the Wild. Its environments and locales definitely feel a little bland compared to the other games of the series, but that gameplay just makes up for it. So far, it looks like Tears of the Kingdom still hasn't brought back the iconic music or locales, so I really hope the next game in the series is able to combine the fantastic gameplay of Breath of the Wild with the more iconic music tracks and locations from earlier games. Although it got stale, there is a reason why they carry the exact same formula all the way from A Link to the Past to Skyward Sword. Oh, and I did play Phantom Hourglass. That one was okay. I think it did have a bit of backtracking. I can't remember a lot of it now because I played it when it first came out. I remember I liked Linebeck, but it's probably not a game I'll ever go back and play. I'd like to play Spirit Tracks eventually, because if it's anywhere near or as good as Phantom Hourglass, then I think I'll have a good time with it. And I did play A Link Between Worlds. That was pretty good too, but again, probably never going to come back to it. I did like that it started to shy away from the traditional Zelda formula, but now that Breath of the Wild is out, I just feel like there's not much of a reason to go back to it. I think my favorite version of Link is probably Young Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Something about that 90s pretty boy anime art style really clicks with me. Breath of the Wild Zelda is the best Zelda. Breath of the Wild Link, on the other hand, is kind of bland. Breath of the Wild Zelda wears yoga pants. I think my favorite species in the Zelda series are the Zora. It's a really close call because they're all really cool and interesting races, but I think I have to pick the Zora mainly because I like the color blue and the water element. But the Gorons are a close second. They're so dorky and lovable. I don't really have a favorite dungeon. Like I was saying earlier, those aren't really my favorite part of the Zelda games. They're fun, but the ones that really stuck with me aren't the ones that I had the most fun with. It was the ones that were the most agonizing. The ones that I spent the most time in listening to. Or... And of course the Water Temple. When it comes to bosses, it's hard to beat the original fight against Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. A big part of it is the build-up, the music intensifying as you climb up the tower. You come in and he's just there playing his own theme song on the organ. It's so cool. Have you ever looked at the box art of these Zelda games? The Japanese box art of most of them is so good, but most of the North American versions are really bad. They're all just this gold background with a logo plastered on it.
Oh, that one's actually really good.
The original NES cartridge was gold, so I feel like maybe that's what they were going with these gold box arts, but it would have been much cooler if they just had the modern cartridges gold, rather than having these gold boxes. The last two games have been a little better about this, but what's funny is with Breath of the Wild, they took the generic protagonist standing in the middle of the box with his back towards the screen approach that plagues so many other games these days. At least Tears of the Kingdom was a step up. I think, maybe. I need to check the box. I can't remember. You know what's the worst thing in Zelda dungeons? When you have to keep going back to change something in the dungeon, like having to change the water levels in the Water Temple or having to change the formation of the Divine Beasts. I'm pretty sure that's my least favorite thing in Zelda dungeons, and I think there are other examples of it, but those are the only two I can think of right now, and I don't really know how to look something like that up either. Can we talk about these Robin Williams Zelda commercials for a second? They're so heartwarming. Zelda and Robin Williams are a perfect mix, and Nintendo was really able to capture lightning in a bottle with these. I don't think they could ever pull something like this off again. I really miss this era of Nintendo when they were doing these amazingly creative marketing campaigns. Nintendo Directs were so much better back then. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still pretty good, but they were really on a roll for a while. They had the puppet one, the robot chicken one, Reggie Fils-Aimé and Bill Trinen kept spitting out memes left and right. Seriously, Doug, get on it. We've barely seen you since you become president. We don't even get to see Bill anymore. What happened? But I digress. I know Tears of the Kingdom has been out for a while now, but I feel like I haven't had enough time to really sit down and analyze everything that's going on in it. Because believe me, a lot is going on in it. So I'm just going to give a quick summary of the beginning, followed by my first impressions. A little bit of time has passed since Breath of the Wild. Zelda and Link decide to go exploring in a cave because Zelda is still fascinated with Hyrule's history. They stumble into Ganon, he gets rehydrated somehow, and Link loses all his hearts and Zelda goes poof. Now you have to go find Zelda, get your hearts back, and probably go kill Ganon. Simple and easy setup for a Breath of the Wild sequel. Not quite as interesting as I was hoping for when you compare it to, say, Majora's Mask, but that's just the story and atmosphere department. Gameplay-wise, it's amazing how much they've changed. The core mechanics are still the same, but the fuse ability has so many more applications than I was expecting it to have. There are a little bit of light game mechanic spoilers here, so skip ahead just like 10 or 20 seconds, if you care about that. If you're on mobile like I usually am listening to videos, just tap the right side of the screen like 4 to 6 times. I thought the fusion ability was just going to affect your weapon stats. I had no idea it was going to give you all these cool new techniques. I didn't know you were going to be able to turn your shield into a skateboard or a flamethrower. I didn't know you were going to be able to attach a spring to your shield and then bounce into the air. I didn't know you were going to be able to use an Octorok balloon attached to your shield to float into the air like a hot air balloon. Why are all the coolest fuse abilities involving your shield? I swear, I'm constantly breaking my shield in this game. Shields are like the most useful thing in the game by far, and I wish there was just an easy way to farm a ton of them. I mean, there probably is, but I wish it was a more apparent way in-game. They just seem to be way more scarce than both swords and bows and arrows, so it's like, what the heck? Regardless, I'm having a blast with it so far. Maybe I'll do a full review of it later, I don't know. It depends on how this video does, and also if I think I'll be able to say anything about it that hasn't already been said, which is unlikely considering how much it's been flooding the internet since it came out. Well, I think that's about enough of me rambling on about my experience with the Zelda series. So what do you all think about the Zelda series? Is it your favorite? Is it not that great? Is it just sorta decent? What's your favorite Zelda game? My channel's finally seeing a little bit of growth after 7 years, and if I get enough comments on this video, I'd like to make a whole nother video just responding to everyone individually, if there's enough to talk about. So while you think about that, I'm just gonna leave you with this nice little scene of Lon Lon Ranch here because I feel like this was peak Zelda. At least atmospherically. Maybe not gameplay-wise, but you know, I just hope that someday they're able to recapture this sort of atmosphere again. Thanks for watching!